Start.
And we're back. Let's turn the chairs.
I'm
Because
confused.
Leah's the one who's been playing the game, so we need to interview her. If not, it's going to be a long ass monologue, and I'm just going to start scrolling Instagram.
It's not like you guys listening to the sound of my voice.
That's true.
Yeah. So, two parts. First part, we're going to talk about the game, the reviews, what you like, what you don't like, all that jazz. And then after that, maybe we can go into all the controversies surrounding the games.
Yeah.
With the devs being like, we've been working 100-hour weeks, and then them opening up, putting a gagging their employees, and then removing the gag and say, okay, you can talk about it, and you can talk about your conditions and how you feel.
Yeah.
So I think we need to talk about all of that.
Mm-hmm.
But first, let's start with the game. Leah, your first impressions, like your elevator pitch of what you like about the game.
God damn, this game is pretty.
I've been seeing screenshot, and holy smokes, it looks fantastic.
Guys,
Are you on the Xbox One X, right?
yes, I am. Okay, full disclaimer, I purchased this game. I purchased this game a week ago, so that would be pre-ordered, downloaded, ready to go on my console for midnight on the 25th, turning into the 26th. I haven't done that in years. So already, the hype, like, I made an event out of Red Dead Redemption 2 for myself. Like,
Did
legitimately.
you wear a cowboy hat and boots before starting the game?
I didn't go that far. But, like, and it's not like I've been quiet about it either.
Yeah,
like,
it's
I
true.
told my friends at work or my colleagues at work, and I said, hey, I've got all these lieu days and extra vacation days. I'm taking Friday off. And they're like, oh, you doing something? You going somewhere? I'm like, no, I'm staying up late and playing video games. And for those of you that have heard me on TSN 690, because I do a hit with them every Tuesday morning at 9:50, I told them as well. I was like, yeah, like I will come back on Tuesday ready and rearing to go because I'll have lots of hours in on this game. So I think the experience, because I haven't done that on so long, like staying up late, turning it on at midnight, sitting on my couch, my husband was gone to bed, dog snuggled in next to me, and experiencing this vast universe that the Rockstar people have put together was it was borderline emotional because we knew all this history about this game. This game I've been waiting for 8 years. I have an emotional connection to the cowboy history and ethos and everything because of my father and my grandfather, and you guys can learn more about that if you go check out my interview with Jared Petty at Red Dead Radio. But yeah, I sat down. And the beginning of the game, when they set it up and the story and everything, essentially you play as Arthur Morgan. He is an outlaw. He is a gunslinger for hire, but he's part of this gang, the Dutch Vanderling gang. Dutch is an actual dude. I actually really like his character. He reminds me a lot of Powers Booth from Deadwood. And you know, you're part of this gang, which is not like, you think of a gang and you kind of think of like, all right, well, old-timey, like, bad, grisly guys that are up to no good and they're just out for evil and stuff.
Yeah.
No, this is almost like a family. Like, this is a bunch of misfits, of people that weren't doing well, that managed to come together and they want to survive together, very much like a family.
Yeah.
And the beginning of the game starts off where you're running from this robbery that went wrong. You don't know a whole lot about it, and you're running away, and you get stuck in this wicked snowstorm. And so the game moves pretty slow. It's very much the first beginning part is setting up the characters, getting you into it, and that's what I played on Thursday night / Friday morning. I stopped at that point right before it got into the open world because I was like, okay, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. I need to sleep because I do a 9 to 5, and then I'll wake up the next day and play more. And I felt like it was very important that they set up the characters and they set up the setting, but also that it was paced in a way that gave me time to appreciate this amazing, gorgeous world, to understand the dire situation that these folks were in. It's like they need to find shelter or they are going to die. And then also to realize the change in pace after playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey. So I had just the day before, the evening before, was grinding in Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and the pace of that game seems very fast. Leveling up seems very fast. Combat is really fast. The mechanics of how you level up your character, how you go through the menus, everything is smooth and easy to understand, and something that we've done frequently, especially since it'd been mere months when I finished Assassin's Creed Origins. This game forces you to slow the fuck down. And I haven't encountered that in a really long time. And it's important to know for those who are used to the cowboy kind of tropes in movies and that kind of stuff, or if you've watched old cowboy movies, westerns, it's really slow. The pacing moves really slow. Mm-hmm. And I found that was the most interesting thing about this game that I've encountered so far, is the very distinct division between that slow, sit back, take it easy, take in everything, go about your daily business, life is slow and mellow and not rushed, versus the really intense parts when you get into gunfights.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because I watched the Jim Pressions video, because every time he likes a game, I have to watch his video to see that he still likes games.
Seeing Jim being positive about something is impressive.
Yeah.
Was he okay? And before this, I didn't read any reviews, didn't do anything, so I didn't watch that. What was his feelings on it?
He loved it.
Okay.
His only gripes were exactly these mechanics that slowed things down for the sake of immersion and hyper-realism, that uncanny valley. The fact that when you loot somebody, there's like a 10-second animation where you pick him up and you rifle through his pockets. Other in games like Assassin's Creed, like you said, you just kind of like stand over people, you hit, as long as they're like in your view, you can hit Y or whatever button if you're not on Xbox to just loot, and there's no animation. It's like quick and go. And he said for a game that has like grinding mechanics like the hunting and things like that, it just for him it made it more of a grind. Or the fact that you call your horse in real time. He was like, he thought they missed the balance in realism versus gameplay mechanics that make you want to keep going or not annoy you so that you can be on your way. I don't know how you feel about that.
I had to relearn that, and now I appreciate it more, because I feel like it makes me stop and smell the flowers, and also it makes me remember that we're not always in a tear to get everywhere.
Yeah.
Right? So it makes you more cautious of looking at the map around where you just finished your last mission or whatever, and seeing what's close by and going to do that and making a path onto your next spot rather than jumping from one place to another place to another place. I haven't unlocked fast travel yet. I guess some context, I'm 20 hours in. I'm not out of the second chapter. I do know that there's multiple chapters because I've been looking through the menus and stuff. And I think it really forces you to go through the map, to look at everything, to really learn the mechanics, because they are very deliberate. And if you think that you're going to go trigger happy, if you think that this is going to be a button masher, that's not what this is. And you really need to think strategically. And me personally, maybe because my life has been going kind of full tilt for the past 6 months, it's actually really nice to sit back and look at it that way, and to take the moment where I'm like, God damn, that's a nice view right there. I'm taking a picture, right? And taking the screenshots. So for the folks in our Discord channel, we just opened a channel that's screenshots from games. And like, I'm just feeling it. I'm feeling it, because every moment I'll see this amazing vista, or like lighting through the city, or like seeing the sky at night or something, and I just freak out and take a picture and need to share it with everybody. And I think that I can see why Jim was ticked at that. I can see if someone's trying to rush through this game, why they would be discouraged by this, especially after playing something like Assassin's Creed. But I'm really appreciating it. That's my 2 cents on that.
Yeah, I don't think it's a bad or a good decision in itself. I think it's more like, what do you appreciate and what you look for in a game. I personally am the kind of gamer that gets impatient with mechanics that I found
too slow.
superfluous.
It's kind of forcing you to slow down.
Yeah, no, or just that feels superfluous. You know, it's just like a looting animation for me, or the fact that you have to wait. I have to stand there for a whole minute so that my horse can.
But it's just
get to me.
It's very strategic. So just before we jumped on here, I played a mission where we had to go and save one of our gang mates, and you go through the firefight. And as soon as you're done, you're like, okay, we need to get... My character decides he's going to stick around and loot some stuff. But then as soon as I stick around, all of a sudden my wanted bar comes on. So I know I am under the gun. I have choices. Do I go and loot some dudes? Or do I go and look and see what's at the campfire? Or do I just get the hell out because the law is coming after me? So knowing that takes that kind of time really makes me decide what's more important to me.
I see.
Yeah.
And so you're 20 hours in and you're just at chapter 2?
Yeah, so what I've heard is that the story's between 60 to 70 hours, and then there's more after that. But, Catherine, you know me. You know when I play a game, especially when there's a lot of things on a map, I need to go see all the things on the map.
We have a problem. We open a map and we see all the icons, and it's like, I'm going to go see every single...
It's the reason why I haven't yet.
I played The Witcher, and it really fucking got me triggered. So I opened the map and I was like,
panic attacks opening the map.
it's not that way yet. I think they're strategic in giving you missions and where they're located. Also, too, I think I'm still in borderline tutorial mode and learning mode.
Christ.
But here's the thing, okay? I haven't unlocked fast travel, and I'm kind of glad I haven't, because there's one thing that Rockstar did exceptionally well, is that there's a mode called cinematic camera, or I guess it's a camera mode, that you can turn on at any time. That gives you these like movie quality camera moves. But if you decide that you need to get to the other side of the map because your waypoint is over there, you can decide to go set a waypoint, go in cinema camera mode, and your horse and dude will let him go.
Nice.
Not only is this beautiful to watch, but it's also strategic because they've created a companion app that is available on your mobile phone, Android, iOS, whatever, that connects with the game so you can see live the map, because it's really annoying to open the map all the time. So you can look through the map, read through the journals, because Arthur's journals are so good. He's an amazing illustrator, by the way, Catherine. Okay. And you can watch and read through all of this as you're getting from point A to point B.
Okay.
So it's really cool. And then, of course, there are things that you can then switch off the cinematic camera or just take control again if you still want to stay in that mode and start hunting. I can shoot bunnies from the back of my horse or other deer or something. And, you know, like you do then have to get off your horse and go like properly skin them, which I know a bit about being a newfie and growing up in a family that hunts and fishes. It's actually pretty realistic. I mean, they don't do the whole gutting and everything, but you know, it does take the time it takes. If you have a bunny rabbit, it's real quick. Skin the rabbit. You know what I mean? Take the skin right off. Yeah. If you go after a legendary bear, which I did at one point, he takes a little longer because he's huge. So I think that mode really saves it, and the fact that they have the companion app so you can be off running, I don't feel like it's time wasted, because I felt like I really got to study the map and figure out what the heck I was doing, which is probably what would happen if you were really in that scenario. You would look at your map while your horse was taking you from point A to point B.
Yeah.
I do note, though, that companion app eats the batteries on your phone like nobody's business.
Really?
Yeah, I play with it plugged in.
Okay. Is it because like it's connecting to your Xbox directly?
I think so, because you'll see your character moving on the map at the same time. So it's definitely because of the constant connection.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. So, what do you not like about the game so far?
The menus are not my favorite. I have to say, if there's one fault, it's the menus are clunky. Especially when you go, you have to hit the left bumper to get into the wheel of options, which we're used to. But the problem with this wheel is that it is multiple things deep. So there's 3, if you're on your horse, you get up to 3 different wheels that you can work your way through. And then even on those wheels, say you go to select a gun, you can rifle through other guns that you may have at your disposal. Or other items, be it food, be it cigarettes, be it whatever. And it's just clunky because you need to keep holding that left bumper and then do stuff with the other bumpers and triggers, which I keep screwing up. And in the heat of battle, wow. But then again, maybe this was also on purpose for you to think strategically about setting yourself up to go into a battle accordingly. But goddamn, I'm terrible with that. And I did have to relearn controls because I just jumped off playing Assassin's Creed on Xbox, so I felt like when you feel finger dumb? Playing a new game. So I definitely had that, but even now, 20 hours in, when it comes to the menus, I'm still finger dumb. So that. And then when it comes to the graphics, everything is great. Everything's beautiful, but there are certain NPCs that I felt like they put so much time into Arthur, so much time into Dutch, so much time in some of the gang faces and stuff, that like some of them, they just don't look as good as others, and it takes me out of the experience because I'm like, oh, it looks like a polygon head, but it's so minimal that I see it, but it's just like, oh, I wish they had some stronger faces there. It's just the detail's not the same, especially when you cut between looking at Arthur, looking at this other person, looking at Arthur, looking at this person. Look at your horse. Now look back at me. I'm on your horse.
Oh my God. The horse is diamonds.
So yeah,
wow. It's that Old Spice reference.
I had to go there. Now look at your man. Now look back at me. I'm on a horse.
You just broke me.
And I am on a horse. So, there's definitely things there, but, like, they're so minor that it's like I have to dig. I have to legitimately dig to find something that I'm not a fan of. But, yeah, I can't say much more than that. And I feel like I can't comment, even though I have 20 hours into this game that I know is huge. I'm sure I'll find something else that's busted on me.
Yeah, but we can do some follow-ups in the coming episodes because you'll be playing this.
Definitely going to be playing Red Dead again.
I'm going back to playing after this.
And you played through the original Red Dead.
Yeah, I did.
Is it a continuation of the story?
It's
or is it a new story?
prequel. So the character John Marston that you play in Red Dead Redemption is actually in your gang now. I'm actually curious to see how all that pans out because if you remember, Dutch is the guy that you're actually going after in Red Dead Redemption. So I'm curious to see how all that pans out because right now I actually really like Dutch. I think he's a cool leader, but I have a feeling some stuff's going to happen and it's going to go south. So,
because I've been watching a lot of YouTube, this game is about spilling the tea.
Yes, this is definitely
between
about
Dutch and the character from Red Dead.
Yes. So, and being Arthur, it's kind of interesting sitting back and, like, it's almost like you're going to be the one in between this. And, like, a lot of comments that I've seen, because, like, yesterday I started reading some reviews. People were like, at first, Arthur feels like a pretty...
Spectator?
Like, not a spectator, but just not as well developed at first. Like, you feel like he's kind of just this nondescript cowboy, but he really does remind me of some of the cowboy characters from those old westerns and stuff. So he's kind of stoic, he's hot-headed when he needs to be, he doesn't take bullshit a lot. Like, you can see that, and you see as you play through the game little bits of his personality pop out, and I think that's totally on purpose. But yeah, obviously, even though he is the villain, Dutch seems to be one of the most interesting characters and the one you have to follow the most and see his downward spiral. And then I'm curious to watch John to see how he turns into the man that we play in Red Dead Redemption.
Okay. And do you have maybe some tips or some things to say for people that have played Red Dead Redemption or are going to Red Dead Redemption 2? Is there stuff that you should forget or not think about, or stuff you should bring over?
Well, it's been 8 years since I played Red Dead Redemption, so I don't remember too much.
Some people are playing it with backward compatibility.
I know
right
that's
now.
true. One thing that I didn't like about Red Dead Redemption, initially the first time around I played it, was Mexico, the area of Mexico, which is infamous for being a very slow-moving space in the game, moment in the game. And I feel like they really figured out the balance of that in this new game. So to give you that pacing, but at the same time have moments that are intense and make you want to move fast, while other times you're really going to sit back and look at this grand vista in front of you and And yeah, but I mean, Deadeye's back. Deadeye is awesome. That's for those of you who haven't played yet. Essentially, it's like a slowed down version when you're shooting, and you can actually mark off characters and shoot them fast. So it's almost like bullet time inverted.
It's like McCree's High Noon.
Yes, exactly. Oh, cowboys! Why y'all got this power?
It's
So,
high noon.
Exactly. But yeah, I mean, it's still the amazing storytelling that Rockstar has with characters and settings that if you liked Red Dead Redemption, you're more than likely going to like Red Dead Redemption 2.
Actually, while prepping for this, I found out that Red Dead Redemption is actually the third game. The second game. There was Red Dead Revolver.
Yep.
Have you played that one?
No, I haven't played Red Dead Revolver. That came out... I don't remember exactly when it came out, but I do remember that I had this moment where I went from Nintendo to a PlayStation gamer, and I skipped like PS1, and I'd never had an Xbox 360 or the original Xbox and stuff. And I feel like, and I only got into PlayStation through RPGs and stuff like Final Fantasy X, and I feel like there's a whole sect of gaming that I missed out on. I don't really think I'm ever going to go back to Red Dead Revolver because I feel like it's just too old. Mechanics are too old.
Or something like that.
Yeah. So, but yeah, it is definitely the third in the series, even though it's only at 2. And there was also a DLC turned kind of full game that came off Red Dead Redemption. That was Red Dead Redemption Undead Nightmare. A lot of people refer to it as Red Dead Undead, which is like you're playing as John Marston, but everything is zombies.
Oh.
So that was a lot of fun, and I played that.
So Red Dead Revolver is a PS2 game that came out in May of 2004.
Yeah, see, I was
15 years
thick
ago.
into the Final Fantasy at that point, and I didn't really get into that type of gaming yet.
Yeah, it had a 73% Metacritic.
Yeah. Speaking of Metacritic, you guys see the Metacritics on this game?
97, 98.
Yeah, 98 on Xbox,
Christ.
97 on PC, PlayStation. It's like doing so well, it's insane. Like,
What is it
Yeah.
this year with AAA titles doing so well?
Thank
God
the
of War,
Lord.
Superman, Red Dead
but here,
Redemption.
I think now this is the time we transition because there's no way we can talk about this game and the quality and how good this game is without talking about the development
What
it
happened
went
behind
through.
it,
Yeah.
Yes, let's go into that. I have the wrap up Polygon article open.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially, there's two big things. There's the writing team that said that they put 100-hour weeks in, and then people were like, "That's unhealthy." And then he came back and he said, "No, we did this for like a couple of weeks to get the story going, and then we moved on to another team." But then there's a UK studio that's a lot in charge of the bug testing and things like that that said that they've been been forced to work weekends for many weeks in a row, and although the policy was that overtime was not mandatory, they made it feel like it was.
Yeah.
And so, and it came to came to a conversation where people are like, yes, we want to play Red Dead Redemption 2. Yes, we want you to make the best game ever and things like that, but not at the cost of your employees losing their social lives,
Yeah.
losing their health,
That's
losing their fucking
It's more
mind.
hell than anything else because it's like 100-hour week is just that's just too much, man. You can't do that.
and
I mean,
it
yeah.
just
But it's also it's also like how they were almost proud the way they presented it, you know?
yeah.
They were like almost
Yeah.
proud, like, oh yeah, we did 100 hours because we put a lot of hours in it. Like, why are you proud of making your employees do a 100-hour week? It's not something you should be proud of.
No, it's not. And it also fuck, j'ai perdu ce que je voulais dire.
Sorry, I cut you off.
It's alright. Ça va me revenir. It also spurred a discussion
Yeah,
from
it did.
Ubisoft, the people who did Assassin's Creed Odyssey, about how they're like phasing out crunch culture
Yeah.
to make sure that they keep their talent within the team, especially for games where there's a continuation, right? You know, like Odyssey, they said, we want to support this game for at least 2-3 years.
Yeah.
You have live games too with like League of Legends, Overwatch, things like that. They always push content. If you keep certain members of the core team happy and healthy, then you know you don't lose the DNA of the game, things like that. These are important things. And for a company that made bank with, you know, Grand Theft Auto Online and announced that there will be a Red Dead Redemption Online, you need to keep this team happy, healthy, engaged, passionate, to make sure that Red Dead Redemption Online is a mode that is very fun, that keeps players engaged in your game, and that will generate money. And GTA 5 was in the stories because it cost $5 million to make. It was one of the most budget heavy AAA game ever made. It was a critical success, and with GTA Online, they keep making a lot of money.
So much fucking money. It's
So-
insane how much money they're making.
We're not talking about like Blizzard having to team up with Activision because Overwatch was delayed. Like, Overwatch was a fucking shit show for a while, and then Diablo was released, and it wasn't that great of a game, and they got, you know, and they got dodgy there, and they managed to dig themselves out of that hole. Rockstar was never in that hole.
No.
Ever since they released Grand Theft Auto 5, they were never at risk. So it spurns the discussion of why, though? Do you really need to release Red Dead Redemption now, even if we look at it as a purely financial level?
Yeah, this is something that I've been fighting with over the past 2 weeks or so when this story started coming out, because there's just so much discussion about, you know, deadlines and things like that, and forced overtime, or kind of fake forced, or not really forced yet, not really said it's forced overtime, and all this kind of stuff. And I work in a company that, you know, we put out apps, we you know, we have deadlines, we have events that have to, like, this is the day that it's happening on, things need to happen by this day, no choice. And I thought about that while starting this game, and I can see why they needed all the extra time to get this done. I can see that the crunch that these folks took totally paid off. But how do we rectify this so that the next time round they can still put out a game to this quality, but not have to live the lives they led? So it's hard to say, oh, just delay it, because at some point money will run out. Now, obviously not for Rockstar, because they obviously have money in buckets that they can just throw at things because they're making so much money. But, you know, think about indie game studios and that kind of stuff. They have to put something out at a certain date. If not, there will be no more money. There will be no more chances for them to get that in to feed themselves. And even Rockstar, in some cases, like, they're lucky that Grand Theft Auto 5 Online was doing so well to be able to afford them the ability to delay it as much as they have. Because if you remember, this game was delayed. And it is not easy to go to a higher up, to go to the CEO of a company and say, hey, by the way, we need to delay something by 3 or 4 months or something, especially depending on when the delay is happening.
Yeah,
because
a
delay,
yes,
end of the quarter, it's changing years, that could make or break a company.
Yeah.
So it's a really tough situation to be in. But at the same time, obviously, for the folks that are dealing with this overtime and have been worked to the bone, it's not fair to them either, and it's not right. So how do we, as an industry then, how do we, from every area of the industry, be it just a normal gamer, be it us, the critics, and the aficionados, the ones that are championing our means of entertainment, those working on the games, how do we all together help rectify these kinds of situations? Rockstar was really smart in you know, some say backpedaling, but hey, then they they went and worked with this England studio to make sure that they didn't have this kind of overtime. I don't think a lot of people realized, especially higher ups that would come in and work weekends and whatever, realized the type of image that they were showing to their employees because they were in and people felt like they needed to be in working because the boss was in working. Sometimes it's just like you got no choice as a boss. You get stuck with meetings, you have to come in and work. I would never want that to impact my team. But they do know that there are times in the year when they have to work overtime or work weird hours or do something. But I make sure that they have the chance to take that back afterwards, to reclaim those hours, be it days off or whatever. And I don't know how we get to a point now to try, like, do we take Assassin's Creed and the Ubisoft team and say, how the heck did you guys manage this so that you guys didn't have to work overtime? Like, I can see a lot of press conferences at GDC and stuff now that, like, Ubisoft could go and champion, this is how we set up our game development schedule so that we don't encounter the kind of stuff that we did in the past with Crunch or that Rockstar is encountering now.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it wouldn't work for everybody because Ubisoft is a co-dev environment where they work with all the studios.
But it sounds like Rockstar is like that, too.
They have, like, 4 studios in England. Rockstar Lincoln
different
being
things,
the
right?
worst one where all the stories of forced overtime came out of.
Yeah.
And having that studio just has a bad reputation in the industry in general.
Well, like, you know, if you're a big studio and you can afford it, then yes, definitely, you know, work with different companies and hire people to work weekend shifts, hire people to work evening shifts. Like, one of the things that came out after the story was, like, there's so many people who want to work in video games that they accept these kinds of conditions of working 100-hour week because they're passionate about what they do. But why instead have one person do a 100-hour week, just have 2 people or 3 people do 37.5-hour week and get them to work on different shifts? If you want to work in the game industry so hard, well, then start working evenings, start working weekends. You know, I work in IT support and we're 24/7, and a lot of the starting jobs when you finish school, you're going to work evenings and you're going to work nights because that's how you start in the industry. And so maybe that's something that can be looked on, you know, that you can continue working on someone else's work. I don't know if that's possible, but you know, you move the workload over different people and over different shifts.
I do know that oh, sorry, go Catherine.
It's okay to hire temporary workers.
Yeah.
It's just the practices of how people have been hiring temporary workers and things like that have been bad. But if you have a good policy of, we know for those next 6 months we're going to need 10, 20 extra people, you hire temps with a very specific contract that says this has a finite time and
From
we might renew you.
Yeah.
I do
Things
know
like
that
that.
it's quite complicated to get someone into the swing of things. Like, especially for a game that's been going for this long, there's probably so many things that you need to know before you're even able to start fixing bugs or doing anything, that the uptake to get someone acclimated with the whole systems and everything might take a really long time, and something that probably when this game started development they didn't realize how to do, or maybe they knew how to do in certain divisions, but then when you got to the QA, which is the end of the line essentially, because of all of this delay, they got the crunch the worst out of everybody.
But also, like, I see this a lot because I work in web and, you know, creative projects and things like that. Like in one of the Kotaku articles, they were like, hey, we want to add to the cinematics, we want to add black bars. And they were like, but they didn't consult with the actual programmers. And then they're like, we can't just add black bars to what we've already shot because you're going to block out things that you need to be in shot.
You need to see.
We have to redo everything, knowing that the proportion is not 16:9 anymore, that it's 2:1. It's completely different, and you're adding us weeks of workload just to add those black bars on how many hours of cinematics. So often, like, for me, these kinds of projects, whether it be video games or web, whatever, often it's people, they're like, this is a detail that, because in my head it's just a detail, it's not that hard to do, and it can be fucking hard and change everything. So it's a lot of And for me, my new reflex when I work in projects, like, we would like to try this. I'm like, okay, so I will consult with our front-end integrator. I will consult with our back-end integrator and see, like, what's the scope of work. And I think companies like Ubisoft, that's what they're doing. They're like, we want to do this. Okay, we do a scope of work. Like, we don't go in panic mode and be like, okay, they asked for this, we have to do it. Oh no, it's going to take 2 weeks and overtime. It's like, let's come back. Do you really want to add 2 weeks for this?
Plus all the QA, because then it all needs to be QA'd again.
Exactly.
Right?
So, and then after that, it's like, okay, we're doing it, cool. And then Ubisoft has a pool of many studios. They can be like, you know, okay, so
divide the work
Ubisoft
up.
Quebec, they just released Odyssey. They have a pool of people that are free. So, okay, so Toronto's working on this project. Maybe they're going to grab 10 more peoples because we added this feature that's going to add a lot of work. So, you know, that's how they do it. I don't know if Rockstar can do this internally. It's a lot like the industry is young and the people in charge are people that make great games, but there might not be managers or people are starting to document just like what we do and what needs to be done and how to do it better. And I think it's a bit sad that it took until 2018 that we fixed this industry.
There's this whole... There was an article in La Presse, you know, talking about bad bosses and talking about that kind of stuff. And one of the things that you brought up, Catherine, and it made me think of that article is that the article says a lot of people are being put in management positions not because they can do it and they have the qualities to do it, but because they're there, because they've been working there for that long. So it's their turn to do it, but they don't necessarily have the support, or they don't necessarily have the training, or even the skill set to be a manager. And managing these timeframes and managing, you know, like you said, being able to say no and you know, I have to come back to you because I'm not sure. I feel that it's, if all you've been doing for the last 5 years is working 100-hour a week because that's just how it is, then of course, if you're become a boss, you're going to expect the same thing out of your employees. So, you know, maybe that's what it is as well. And it needs to be a change of, you know, a change of management or a different way of seeing things and seeing, you know, people working in the video game industry as an actual factual job, just like working in any other companies, that you need to have, you know, that 100-hour week is not acceptable in any sense of the term, especially not in multi-million-dollar industry like the video game industry is right now. So it's
I know, I think that people need to leverage their strengths, and maybe that means, you know, hiring people that are not from the gaming industry but that have shipped many technological projects that know how to do a scope of work and things like that. Maybe it's sending
a product.
These people to I don't know, schools like
training.
Like HSA, like business school for them to get.
I'm going to the HSA next week for training.
I've had a few training on coaching, on project management and stuff now since I took the role that I have. Yeah.
You know, at the end of the day, a video game is a product. It's something that you sell, so you can. I'm not saying it's the same, but like I'm sure there's some principles that you can apply from retail. You can apply to video game shipping and that kind of stuff.
I see correlations between what I do in music and the music industry and what's happening there all the time, the time. And it's the thing is that what I want to make sure is that everybody. I don't want people to feel bad for liking this game, because it is very important that we acknowledge the fact that these folks made a gorgeous, beautiful, enthralling, attractive, I can't say emotional yet because I'm not there yet because I'm not that far enough in the game, but like a game that I really, really like.
Yeah.
And I don't want that to be taken away from because of all of this. But at the same time, it's very important that we take all of this news and figure out how can we then keep this quality, but still make the work life of these folks better.
Yeah.
And I don't know the answer to that. I don't know many people do know the answer to that. But the fact that the conversation is happening, the fact that Red Dead Redemption 2 is getting the accolades it's getting, I think that now we need to sit back and reflect, and everybody does, to say, okay, how do we make this situation better?
Indeed.
Yeah.
It's a tough one.
Yeah.
All right, folks. Well, I think that pretty much wraps up the show for this week, unless Catherine or Simon had anything else they wanted to add to that discussion.
Not really. I think
A rumor just came out that it might come out on PC, and I'm excited.
Of course, they're going to put it out on PC eventually.
Yeah, it took them a while to put Grand Theft Auto 5 out on PC.
Yeah,
They
it took a
announced Red
long
Dead
time.
Redemption Online. They need that shit on PC because they make money with GTA.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this highlight from the Girls on Games podcast, you can go subscribe to our show where most podcasts can be found, or find all of our content at girlsongames.ca.